23.46 actual calculated versus 22.5. I'd say we did pretty well. (2016) Infiniti Q70L. I just came from Sam's Club filling up with fuel, and I had used about maybe a third of the tank. For this trip I had covered 99.9 miles, and to top it off I needed 6.638 gallons. Let's do the math on that, see what my fuel economy is at that point. 99.9 divide by 6.638, 15 miles per gallon. This is city driving. I'm not too surprised with it. Very short trips, a lot of idling, but I'm about to get on the highway, so I'd like to see what my true fuel economy is going to be. I have this trip, my first leg of the trip is going to be almost 250 miles. I think that's going to be pretty good. I know with these vehicles you could get almost 500 miles to a tank, but I'm driving in a triangle, so I'll not be able to do like 250 back. But I'll just calculate the fuel economy at the next stop after driving on the highway for a while, then do it again. So we'll see what happens. So what I usually do for this is find the trip reset right there. My A is quite a lot. My B, hold down. And I'm just curious. Go to info. Fuel economy, the history. I'm just curious what it sees. 20.4. And it estimates if I keep driving the way I've been driving, I've got 308 miles to this tank. So trip B is on 0 right now, and we'll see what happens, what my estimated is going to be. Fuel economy history, that's the latest. It seems like it's been resetting a lot. So despite it saying my fuel economy is, my average is over 20, you can see right now this is under 20. It's right at what, 18 maybe? Not too bad. What I'm going to do is reset that. Yes. And then let's get on the road and see what happens, okay? Be my witness. I'm on Highway 70 going west, and my set speed is 80 miles an hour. That's what I have for cruise control. I actually have intelligent cruise control, but as intelligent cruise control goes, that is distance control assist. So sometimes when I'm behind people, my speed might slow down to whatever the vehicle in front is doing. But I just wanted to show that whenever I can, let me just put it like this. I guess I'm going 10 over the speed limit posted everywhere I'm going to be. And this is my first piece of evidence. My intelligent cruise control just sensed a vehicle in front of me and lets me know that the vehicle is in my vicinity. So I have my speed set for 65, but you'll see me slowing down because the vehicles in front of me are not doing a minimum of 65. So I'm getting close and close to them. And so, although the number says 65, the digital readout, you'll see the analog, the hand go down to 60. 60? Less. My goodness, what is going on here? Well, I know what is going on. The speed limit on this road, as many rural highways, is 55. Ooh, 55. When it's 55, we'll be doing 65. Yeah, well, being that they're country roads and it's a perfect time of the year for two reasons. One, it's fall, so you don't see too much farm machinery on the roads. The roads are going to be clear, very few disruptions. And if you do, by disruptions, I mean other road users. If anyone shows up in front of you, it will not be too hard to pass them. It will not take too long before I can get around them. And then the third thing is, with fall, the temperature. Fall is actually the perfect time to be doing all these fuel economy tests. If you want things to look favorable, because for one, temperature is low, so your vehicle's not really struggling too badly. It's cool enough, but it's not too cold that gas stations have already started selling that winter blend. In the Midwest, we get that winter blend, so winter blend fuel, that is. So perfect. We still have that summer fuel with decent ambient conditions, right? Yeah, so or maybe October is even a better time. But right now, September, it's dropped. Outside temperature is, below 70. I think we're good. And we'll keep cruising. Oh, wait a minute. Spoke too soon. Look what we have here. Well, let me just say this. I guess I'm going in the correct direction compared to farm equipment. That is funny. I just put the phone down, then I had to pick it back up to record that. We are in some other small town in Illinois. Speed limit here is 35. I'm not going to go 45 here. I'm going to go 40. Thing is, people drive really slow over here, so sometimes I find myself doing about 25 or even 20 in this town. So anyway, I pulled out the camera because I wanted to talk about fuel economy or fuel consumption, right? When I started my drive, it had said, if my memory serves me correctly, we were anticipating 308 miles to empty. So right now, you can see that I have already exceeded that, in that I've been driving, yet it's telling me, hey, if you keep driving, you're actually going to cover more. But from the 300 initial miles we were looking at, right, I felt like, hey, I just went over 60. 60 is a good dividend of 300, right? In that it's about a fifth. And it doesn't relate very well, but either way, I've covered 60 something miles, right? Which is a little more than a quarter of what the first leg of my trip was going to be. Remember, it's around 250. And when I look at the fuel gauge, it has barely moved from the full mark. So I'm liking that. So which means that if my calculator were to update, or if I were to get fuel at some point, if I use up whatever I have with the 334 miles, that is, the vehicle will be telling me that you have covered 335 plus 64. Let's just call that 330 plus 70. So that would be 400 miles to a tank. But that's just a hypothesis. I said that if you play your cards right, you feel you could get about 500 miles to the tank in one of these vehicles. So we'll see what that total distance to empty thing ends up being. Over here, I'm just, as I said, just working with what the computer is telling me. And something cool you might have noticed is that it says that my average fuel economy, at least for this trip, is 23 miles per gallon. And that's the thing about averages. Averages can be funny. Averages is not just about bringing it all together, in that, yes, I know my city fuel economy wasn't all that great, but in relation to the number of miles I cover on the highway, I'm getting way more coverage, covering way more distance at 23 miles per gallon compared to the short trips or the short distances I cover at 15 miles per gallon. So that the average is still more skewed towards the higher number. Okay, that's just a mathematical problem over there. So I see someone trying to pass. It's always scary. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it's always scary when you're on that side and you see a vehicle, you're thinking, that should be getting further and further. It's getting closer a little too fast, hoping they can make it. If not, I have the shoulder, and then you're thinking, well, are they going to try to jump on the shoulder, If you don't have space to pass, just don't. It's so close to that bend, that's why I'm thinking, why were they passing that close to the bend? Anyway, we'll keep driving. I think I exceeded it a little bit, but I'll go back to my set point of 65. Let's see where the tach rests at. And this is in sport mode, by the way. I am on Highway 72 in Illinois, and right now I have covered 160 miles since the beginning of my trip. 80 miles an hour, as you can see it there. And it says I've got 260 miles to go if I keep driving the way I've been driving, and that adds up to 420. Not 500, but not bad at all. 22.8. I don't know if it's changed much from that, but as I said, maybe when I make the title to this video, I could call it fuel economy at 80 miles an hour, or fuel economy when you're going 10 over the speed limit. It's a little, I don't know if that's genuine, but yeah, maybe we'll just call it highway fuel economy, assuming that you combine. There is a way you can actually calculate your average speed. I should have reset my counter. I think I'm going to do that for my next trip back. It says this is what your average speed has been, and so I can look at that reader, and then this is where that reader is. No, not that. Setting, no. Info, I'm looking for info. MPH, did you see that? I skipped it. But I just noticed something. Despite covering a little more ground, 2 more miles, it says I still have, it just increased from 260 to 264. The distance to empty counter is usually such an interesting thing, and sometimes I feel bad when people look at that and say, hey, why is it that low? You know, I just filled my tank. Why is it only 200 to empty? I mean, it's saying is that based on the way you have been driving up to this point, we're assuming this is how many miles you're going to cover, you know? And so when I do this for the second trip, which I will call that video part 2, you'll notice that the distance to empty is going to be a little higher, because it's going to say based on what the way you've been driving, which is highway, we anticipate that you're going to have this many miles before it gets empty. Oh yeah, so I was trying to show something here. There you go. It's saying my average speed is 32.3. My average fuel economy, MPG over there, is 18.5. I don't know when that was reset, but it's just a way to look at it, saying since the last time you reset it, this is what it's showing. Range 251. Interesting. 250 to 263 down to 251 in less than 3 miles. That really that jumped down. 80 miles an hour is a little high, is what I'd say. It's kind of fast for a vehicle like this. I think, as I said, that 60 mile an hour range is where it's going to shine. I don't know, maybe do we want this screen here? I'll just do the outside temperature, because I've got my distance to empty. I've got my screen showing me so many different things. I wanted to give an update as we're putting along. I'm about to get into some city-like driving. Then I'm going to go to Sam's Club in that city and fill up again. But while on the highway, I wanted to let you know that at this point I have covered 234 miles. Let's call it 235. When I look over here, it says my estimated distance to empty is 176. When you add those two numbers up, that puts me at about 410 thereabout for tank of gas. And it's not 500, yes, but I already predicted earlier that 80 miles an hour was not going to be very good for fuel economy. And you can see that over here. It's holding strong at 22.5, which is pretty good. Earlier, I believe it was showing 22.8. And what I'm going to do is that over time, I'm going to, on the second leg of my trip, yes, I will be in town, but I will have it more as a I don't want to say true, just different fuel economy. I'm going to reset my numbers on there just so that it can show my average driving, and then I'll be doing a little bit of city driving, you know, with purpose, and then I would also do highway driving. And I've already explained earlier that highway driving ends up boosting the average, right? Raises the curve on the average. And when that happens, I will, on my other trip, I'm actually going to drive with the speed limit. So when it is 70 miles an hour, I'll be doing 70 miles an hour, no more, just to see what could happen. Because I know that fuel economy, that 60 mark it's magical. And this is the terrain we have. I've had a few hills and yeah, it doesn't feel like I've really gone down at all. I've just been going up and up and up towards Western Illinois. So maybe that's just the landscape. Maybe driving back would give me a better fuel economy number, but might not be honest in itself. What you need to do is do back and forth. You know, if you can, then add those numbers up. But at least I'm looking at it and I can say that, you know, tell me whatever you want, but I can see that I've used up about half a tank. And when you look over here, okay, construction lines and stuff. When you look over here, it only shows that, you know, 237 miles, which means depending on how I drive it, I can actually pull double that to a tank of gas, you know? Why not? And if I drive better and get better fuel economy, I could, at 230, I'd have used a little less than half a tank. So the math, if you just follow the math, I know that 500 miles to a tank of gas is possible. But we'll see. We'll see if I can do that. Oh, this is the new kind of Sam's Club, huh? All right, I see you. Well, I'm heading to the fuel island. Illinois gas prices, Sam's Club discount. Fuel station entrance. All right. This is looking good so far. Why is it so small? I like the design. It actually allows some pass-through over there. Anyway, here we are. We've got, oh, these guys have diesel. That's nice. Sam's Club in Indiana does not have diesel. 91. Okay, I believe they have 93. But 91's gonna have to work. 254.5 miles with an estimated of 149. So look at it as 250 and 150. That is a total of 400 to the tank, approximately. 22.5. Let me go ahead and fill it up and calculate and see what my actual number is going to be. All right, and I've used a little more than half a tank by now. And we're done. So let's pull out the calculator. Oh, this is from my last calculation. Clear that. 254.5 divided by 10.845. That's how many gallons it took. 23.46 actual calculated, right? Versus what we saw here was 22.5. I'd say we did pretty well. That's at 23.46. The fuel economy, miles per gallon, that is going at 80 miles an hour, give or take, in sport mode. But what I'm going to do is change this from sport to standard. And then I'm going to come here to my menu options. There is a way you can reset that, right? Range, I can't do anything for range. It's saying if you keep driving the same way you've been driving, you get 393 miles to the tank. Versus the 400 we got, not too bad, right? That's where that number comes from. It just says, depending on the way you've been driving at this, you know, immediately prior to this fill up, this is what you're going to see. So don't let that number stress you, really. Add them up. We could do a trip reset over here. So it was going to be 0. So I'm going to reset it again. Then that's been reset. And then we're going to drive normally this time. No stress, we're not trying to calculate anything. We're just living life and living like normal. A little bit of city driving with a whole lot of highway. All right, let's go.